Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz. We are covering a lot of trials here on the network, gavel to gavel. Another one we are covering is the Shayna Hubers trial. We've been covering this case now for more than a week. It is out of Kentucky. This is the case where Shayna Hubers, often coined the nose job killer, is on trial for killing her boyfriend of the time, Mr. Poston. She is now standing her second trial. She was already found guilty and sentenced to 40 years in prison. That's her boyfriend's picture up on the screen. But because a juror in the first trial was a convicted felon and that was not disclosed, she was granted an appeal after being in jail for 6 years. She has now had her second trial where the prosecution's put on their case, the defense has put on their case. We just finished closing arguments today, and soon the jury will be getting the case for deliberations. This time, though, the case is slightly different, which makes it more interesting than the first time. This time, the defendant took the stand herself in her own defense, which rarely happens because lots of times defendants don't want to subject themselves to cross-examination. But in this case, Shayna Hubers did take the stand, showing a little bit more maturity than 6 years ago, and that may or may not help her case. We have testimony right now of her direct examination, so without further ado, let's go to that.
And what happened next?
I turned and looked at him, and he was running towards me. He grabbed me again, and he picked me up in a similar way again, and he started carrying me. And I believed, because of the direction he was moving, that he was trying to carry me out of the house, as he had done before earlier in that year. And when he was trying to carry me, I guess I was kicking, and he fell on me. I don't believe he meant to. And he fell on top of me onto an area between the sofa and onto the footstool. My chest, this part of my body, was on the footstool, and all of Ryan's weight was behind me on the footstool. And he had all of his weight on top of me, and he laid on me in that position for what felt like a while. I'm not sure how long it was. And he had one hand in I had my hair in like a messy bun, and he had one hand up in my ponytail, up in my bun like this. And he was screaming in my left ear. So his body was kind of behind me and to my left. He was screaming in my left ear.
You remember anything he was saying?
Yes, I do.
What was he saying?
He screamed at me, "You're a fucked up person. And you're a fucked up person because you were touched when you were a little girl. And that's why you can't orgasm, and that's why I can't love you, and that's why no one will ever be able to love you."
How many times did you shoot?
I know now that it was 6 times.
Did you keep track at that point?
No.
Do you know what happened when you first shot him? You know what his body did, if you know.
When he was first shot, he let out a really loud noise that sounded like an animal. It sounded like a bear, like some type of wild animal. And it really freaked me out.
Ms. Hubers, after you shot him, what did you do?
I couldn't find my phone to call out, and I searched the apartment over for my phone.
And do you know where you found your phone?
I'm not sure, but I know it took me a while to find it.
Okay. And when you got it, what did you do?
I called my mother.
And How did you describe what had happened to your mother?
I just told her the truth.
Okay. Do you recall who used the term self-defense
Yes.
during that conversation? Who was it?
My mother.
Did you call anyone else after you spoke to the mother? Your mother?
911.
Okay. And when you did that, did you follow the instructions of the 911 operator?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz. What you were listening to on the stand right there is testimony from Shayna Hubers herself. She took the stand in her own defense. She is the defendant, and she is standing her second trial now for killing her boyfriend, Mr. Poston. 6 years ago, she had her first trial. She was found guilty and sentenced to 40 years. Now this is her retrial, and it is different this time because she took the stand, and that's the testimony you were just listening to, was her testimony in her own defense on direct examination. With me is Latonia Hines, a prosecutor. Latonia, I want to dissect this. I'm listening to her this time. She seems very concerned, in my opinion, a bit rehearsed, but I'd like to know your thoughts, and then we'll see how she handled herself under cross-examination.
Well, she needs to seem sympathetic to the jury, especially because you've got to be able to explain 6 times you shot this man. And part of the defense, Lisa, it's been at least in the past, is that she's somewhat of a battered girlfriend type of situation. And so she's got to seem composed, and she's got to seem very kind of meek, which is definitely a different type of personality than somebody who would have shot somebody 6 times and said, here, you finally got your nose job. So I think she's doing what she needs to do, and I think she's learned something from the first trial.
Do you think she's overcoming the interrogation videos that we saw in the prosecution's case of her just babbling on and on and on and doing pirouettes in the interrogation room and singing Amazing Grace and shouting out, I did it, yes, I did it? Is she really coming back from that by taking the stand in her own defense?
Well, here's what she's doing for taking the stand. All jurors want to hear from the defendant who's on trial. They do. Even though they've been told that they don't have to, that it's not, you shouldn't hold that against the defendant if they just choose not to take the stand because they don't have to. All jurors want to hear from them. And the fact that she's taking the stand is very good in her defense. The problem, though, much like you said, is the fact that you've got these interrogation videos. And that's where they're going to need to bring their own expert in and say that, you know, when somebody who's been battered and they've gone through different things, they just react in different ways. And that even though this seems very strange, she's been going through a period of abuse for a long period of time, and that she was just, you know, kind of out of it. And that's how they're going to have to try to overcome that. That's why she's calm now versus what happened at that time.
All good points. Now, let's see how Shayna Hubers handles herself in cross-examination, because so far, so good on direct.
I don't remember I don't remember exactly what I said on the 911 call. Even now, I have to listen to it to remember it because I don't have great memory of saying those things.
So it's only now that you don't really remember the 911 call?
Yes, after all these years, I really don't remember the 911 call.
But you remember every other detail? Every other detail of relationship that started in 2011. You remember all of those details?
Yes. Not all of them, but I remember a lot of it, yes.
So, he's told the jury about things that you believe now are inconsistent with what you said that night. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about the things that you didn't say. In your statement, you never mentioned being bent over a stool, did you?
No.
In your statement, You never mentioned feeling like your neck was going to be broken. Did you?
I think I said he had my face and stuff, and that's what I meant by that when I said something about he had my face. That's what I was talking about. I just didn't have the verbiage or the words to put it there.
Well, let's talk about the words that you used. You said he grabbed me by the neck. That's not the same as what you testified to here about being bent over a stool and feeling because of the weight of him, your neck was going to break. That's two totally different scenarios, right?
I was describing the same scenario using different words, and I didn't have the accurate words at the time to describe it. I was in a state of shock. I don't believe I was...
Objection, Your Honor. I'm going to ask for that to be stricken. You have experience with guns, don't you?
I've used guns more than once.
Okay. In fact, you grew up in a household with guns, didn't you?
My parents did not have guns. I lied to Ryan and told them that I knew more about guns than I did to impress him.
Okay, so if I can approach what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit 197, can you please look at that and see if it looks familiar?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what that is that you're looking at?
These are text messages between Ryan and I.
Okay. What is the time, the date that those messages were sent?
July 5th, 2011.
Okay. Read the jury what your lie was to Mr. Poston about guns.
Objection sustained.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz. That is Shayna Huberson on the stand for herself in her own defense on cross-examination. And as you can see there, the defense, the state is now cross-examining the defendant by trying to poke holes in her testimony, by trying to say she has manufactured statements to fill in the blanks of saying things now that she never mentioned at the time. They're trying to cast doubt in the jurors' eyes of what she's saying. With me, Latonia Hines, I want to have a discussion with you on her testimony. Do you think that the cross-examination is effective, or do you think she's holding it together pretty well, garnering the sympathy of the jurors, which she was doing quite well with direct?
I think it's actually being pretty effective. What the cross-examination is that you remember so many details, but yet you don't remember the 911 call. And them going over that, the fact that things are different now compared to how you were and before. You know what? She's learned and figured out what she needs to do to, get a better result in this trial. And I think that's what the prosecution is showing.
Yep, she certainly has nothing to lose by throwing it out there and coming up with additional information that she could say at the time she didn't disclose because it wasn't probed properly, or she was under, anxiety, or the adrenaline, she doesn't remember. So who knows how the jury's taking it? That'll definitely be a juror's question for us to sit and watch, and we'll see how the facts come down and what kind of verdict comes down. But for now, we have to go to a quick break. After the break, we have some other top trending crime stories around the country, but let's go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz. That is prosecution closing arguments in the Roy Oliver case. They are putting on their case to say that this officer acted unreasonably under the circumstances by killing the 15-year-old teenager. Latonia Hines, thank you for joining us and being a part of this. We don't have time for you to comment, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to sign off in person before we go to our next break. For those of you staying with us, please stick with us. After this break, we're going to go to defense closing arguments. Stick with us. We'll be right back.